What if I told you that some of the most hyped cars people bought recently are the same ones owners are quietly regretting in 2026? These aren't cheap cars, these aren't unknown brands, and yet buyers are realizing that price, badge, and big promises don't always translate into real satisfaction. Today, we're talking about 5 cars that are failing expectations in 2026, not because they're total disasters, but because they simply didn't deliver what buyers were led to believe. Let's start with a hard truth. Modern cars are more complicated than ever. Screens are bigger, tech is flashier, and marketing is louder. But many buyers are discovering that complexity doesn't always mean quality. In fact, for some vehicles, it's becoming the biggest reason for regret. One of the most talked about disappointments in 2026 is a luxury SUV that promised cutting-edge technology but delivered frustration instead. Buyers loved it in the showroom. The screens looked amazing, the interior felt futuristic, and the driving experience was impressive at first. But after months of ownership, complaints started piling up. Software glitches, system freezes, and features that didn't work consistently turned daily driving into a test of patience. Owners aren't angry, they're just tired. When a luxury car feels like a beta product, regret sets in fast. Another car on this list shocked buyers because it came from a brand known for performance. On paper, it looked perfect. Strong engine, aggressive styling, sporty image. But in real life, many owners realized it tried too hard to be exciting while forgetting comfort. The ride was too stiff for daily driving, the interior felt less premium than expected, and long trips became exhausting instead of enjoyable. Buyers didn't regret the power, they regretted living with it every day. Then there's a car that suffered from expectations created by its own reputation. People assumed it would be reliable, refined, and stress-free. Instead, ownership turned out to be more demanding than expected. Maintenance costs added up, small issues appeared more often than they should, and resale value didn't hold as strong as buyers hoped. This wasn't a terrible car, but when expectations are high, even average problems feel like failure. Another big regret in 2026 comes from a vehicle that focused heavily on design. It looks stunning. Park it anywhere and people notice. But owners quickly realized that beauty came with compromises. Rear seat space wasn't as usable as expected. Visibility wasn't great. Practicality took a back seat to style. For buyers with families or daily commuting needs, the design-first approach started to feel like a mistake. Regret doesn't always come from what a car does wrong. Sometimes it comes from what it doesn't do well enough. And finally, one of the most disappointing cars of 2026 is one that simply didn't age well. The first few months were great, but as time passed, materials didn't hold up, interior noises developed, and the car stopped feeling new much faster than expected. Buyers realized that initial impressions can be misleading. Long-term quality matters more than first-week excitement, and this car failed that test. What all these cars have in common isn't that they're bad vehicles, it's that they were overpromised. Marketing told one story, ownership told another. Buyers went in expecting perfection and walked away learning an expensive lesson. In 2026, car buyers are becoming smarter. They're realizing that reliability, usability, and long-term comfort matter more than flashy features and bold claims. Regret often comes from choosing hype over honesty, from believing spec sheets instead of real-world experience. Another pattern is clear. Too much technology too fast is hurting some vehicles. When systems are rushed, owners become unpaid testers, and nothing kills the joy of ownership faster than wondering if your car will behave differently tomorrow than it did today. There's also a lesson here about lifestyle fit. A car can be great, just not great for you. Sporty cars that feel amazing for 10 minutes can become tiring after 10 months. Stylish cars that look perfect on Instagram may not work for real life. And luxury cars that chase innovation sometimes forget durability. The biggest regrets in 2026 aren't about horsepower or 0 to 60 times. They're about stress, unexpected costs, small annoyances that add up, and that sinking feeling when buyers realize they would choose differently if given a second chance. The good news is that these regrets are shaping smarter decisions. Buyers are now asking better questions. How does this car feel after a year? How stable is the software? What do long-term owners say? How expensive is ownership after the warranty? Because in 2026, the worst feeling isn't buying a slow or average car. It's buying a car that promised everything and quietly failed to deliver. If you're shopping for a car this year, learn from these mistakes. Look beyond the hype. Pay attention to real ownership stories. Because the most dangerous thing in the car market right now isn't a bad vehicle, it's unrealistic expectations. And that's why some cars in 2026 aren't just disappointing, they're regretted.